Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our virtual Meet the Expert session. My name is David, and I'm part of the My World Work Live team with Skills Development Scotland. My World Work Live is about helping you to understand what jobs Scotland are going to require in the future and to also help you get the skills you need for them. So in today's session, we're going to cover a quick overview of the engineering and energy sector. We're going to look at the opportunities within the sector. I'm going to introduce you to today's experts, Craig Bradley and Hope Ross, and allow you the opportunity to ask any questions. I would encourage you to get involved as much as possible, so please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to ask us questions. As we go through, we'll try to answer as many as we can. I would just like you to know that today's session is being recorded so that young people who could not make it today can still access the resources. It will be available for everybody to watch on the My World of Work Live playlist on the My World of Work YouTube channel. This means you can go back and rewatch everything that's been talked about today. If you're feeling a bit shy, don't worry. Everything you ask today can be anonymous and you can select that in the Q&A box. So just before I introduce our experts, let's have a look at some of the labour market information. So in the UK, we have our energy engineers. So an energy engineer's average UK salary is around £36,400 and 91% of them work full time. We've got electrical engineers who have an average UK salary of 48,360 and 92% of them work full time. And finally, electrical engineering technicians with a average UK salary of 31,200 and 90% of them work in full-time occupations. There's different routes for entry into these occupations. You can get in through, you can study them at college or university. You can also have a modern apprenticeship or a graduate apprenticeship. And you can also do a foundation apprenticeship alongside your subjects while you're at school in engineering to prepare you for these as well. So right now, let me introduce you to Craig and Hope, who are part of Scottish Power, and I'll let them tell you a wee bit about themselves.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Craig Bradley, and I'm the Corporate Innovation Manager at Scottish Power, where I've worked for the last 16 years. I had a slightly unusual path into the industry. I left school at 17 with my hires, and although I could possibly have gone to college or university, it just wasn't right for me at that time, and I chose to go and work. And I worked in hospitality for a long time, starting out serving behind the bar and waiting tables, and eventually managing restaurants and things like that. That was great for a long time. And then I fancied a change again. So I took a job aligned to a hobby that I had and became a professional photographer. And I worked at the University of Glasgow for a number of years and really enjoyed that as well. Unfortunately, that position was made redundant. But fortunately, I received a redundancy payment, and that allowed me to go and travel around the world for about 18 months, which was a great experience. And like all good experiences, though, it had to come to an end, and I came back to Scotland and I was looking for a job. At that particular time, Scottish Power were taking on a number of employees at entry level, and I started at Scottish Power supposedly on a 6-month contract working in the retail business, handling customer complaints. So although it's not perhaps the most positive job to have at Scottish Power, it was a good entry into the company. You got to see a lot of different things and understand things that were going wrong and trying to fix them. And that 6-month contract was made permanent, and I've worked my way up through the business over the period of the last 16 years, doing things as diverse as procurement, so buying, big bits of equipment for wind farms and power stations that we used to have, to contracts for call centre staff in the retail business. I moved on from there and worked in the energy management team, which is the energy trading bit of Scottish Power, so buying and selling renewable energy, which was really exciting, and I got to spend quite eye-watering amounts of money, which brings a wee bit of pressure. And then from there, I moved into my current role as Corporate Innovation Manager. So what does that mean? Well, I don't come to work every day with a white lab coat on and, doing weird experiments and things like that. Cool. Really, my job is about people. It's about opportunities, and fundamentally it's about decarbonisation. Scottish Power is a traditional energy company. It makes the power, it transmits it along the cables that you see out in the countryside, and then it sends it to people's houses and sends them bills. And we sell them services as well. But that model's all changing. You know, you've got electric cars, you've got people's lifestyles are very different from what they used to be. Industry in this country is completely different to what it used to be years ago. So people's use of energy is changing, and fundamentally we need to clean up the energy system as well. So we're 100% renewable. So an innovation manager is about finding opportunities, identifying, you know, people with the right skills and the right expertise that maybe we don't have in the business, and bringing them in and lining them up with our engineers and our technicians, and trying to sort of create a better future quicker for our customers and for the country at large. I enjoy it very much.
Excellent, excellent. So what we'll do is we'll just jump over to Hope and let her tell us a wee bit about her role.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me today. My name's Hope Ross. I joined Scottish Power in September, so I'm I'd like to say very new to the company, but time's moving quite fast. And we're now in June. So I left school in 6th year, and I went the, I guess, more traditional route. I went to university and studied aeronautical engineering, which is the engineering of planes, at the University of Glasgow for 4 years. Towards the end of my 4 years, I was kind of thinking, I don't think this is something I want to go into just quite yet. So I kind of focused my efforts towards the end, such as my final year project, my dissertation on a more renewable aspect, which I really enjoyed, and I thought this is the route I'd like to go down. From there, I was then fortunate enough to gain a scholarship through Scottish Power to go and study a master's in sustainable engineering at the University of Strathclyde, which I absolutely loved. I thought it was a great course. I thought this is for me. And then from there, I joined Scottish Power on their graduate scheme. So the graduate scheme, which I'm on just now, is a 2-year scheme with 4 placements. So every 6 months I will move to a new team, and I'm based in Scottish Power Renewables, so I'm working on onshore wind. So these in the background, these turbines behind me at the minute, I'm a graduate engineer working on them. I started off in UK Technical Services, and I'm now in my next placement, which is operations and maintenance. So I started off in the construction side of things, and now my new team, I'm looking at older turbines and turbines that we're trying to keep going for a bit longer. Yeah, I'm loving my job, and the graduate scheme is a great opportunity to join different teams and see different aspects of the business before then, after my 2 years, deciding which role I'd like to go into permanently.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll stick with you for the moment, Hope, and what we'll do is we'll ask you our first question. So I guess you've said a wee bit about it when you're talking about the graduate scheme, but what does your current day-to-day role look like, and what sort of experiences have you had so far in your graduate scheme?
So my day-to-day life, obviously at the minute working from home due to COVID, so my day-to-day life thankfully has, it differs day to day. So some days I could be attending site visits, so I could be out on the wind farms meeting with contractors. Other days I'm just on meetings all day discussing our different jobs that we've got on. So the team I'm in just now, kind of like I said, operations and maintenance. So if there's any issues with turbines, not that we have any issues, if there's any issues with turbines, the site teams come to us and we have to kind of investigate and analyse what's gone wrong and put in kind of remedial, make them work again. We need turbines to be running at all times to produce power, so when they're off it doesn't look very good. So we keep them going, and yeah, so meeting with contractors. We're also doing a lot of wind farm sites are coming to kind of the end of their life. They're a lot older, but we're seeing that they're actually in quite good shape, so we can keep them running for longer periods of time. So we're trying to put procedures and new components in place to be prepared for that, so that they can just continue on smoothly rather than stopping quite suddenly.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll just jump across to Craig, and we'll put that same question to you, Craig. What does a day-to-day, what does a day look like for you in your role?
Well, very, very similarly to Hope, there's no 2 days the same. When I'm in the office, although I have a desk, I'm generally not at my desk very often. My day normally involves a lot of meetings internally with technical teams, so people from the renewable business like Hope, who maybe have an issue that they would like to solve, or they've maybe become aware of an opportunity of a really clever company that we should learn more about. Budget meetings, so having to justify how much money we ask for from the company on a yearly basis, and then throughout the year tracking our progress against that budget, which is not particularly innovative, but you need money to be innovative, so you need to have a close eye on your budget at all times. External meetings, so I work a lot with academia, so universities predominantly and colleges who have specialists out there that are really studying a particular subject in a level of detail that we just don't have the opportunity to do because we're a power company. So we like to work with academics. They like to work with us because we get access to their knowledge and their insight, and we can give them access to our data, our wind farms, our network to actually do trials and pilots. So there's a lot of organisation involved when you're trying to bring somebody into the company and let them maybe run a test on a live asset. So I'm responsible for making sure that all of that's coordinated properly. And it used to be that I travelled quite a lot as well, but obviously no longer in the last year. There'll be less travel, which is actually really a good thing, because not only does it give me more time to actually do my job, but it cuts the carbon emissions that we're putting out there as well as having wind farms and being a green company in what we sell, we're actually a green company in how we do it as well. So even when we do get back to the office, the travel aspect of the job will be cut significantly, and I'm all for that. We've seen in the last year that you can work very successfully remotely, but it'll be nice when it's an option, when it's not the only option.
When it's not enforced. Yeah, I think that's very fair. I mean, obviously, we're quite keen on doing meetings remotely and not travelling to cut our carbon footprint, but it brings me to a question that's just come in, and it goes back to something you said during your intro. You were talking about moving towards decarbonisation. Could you explain what that means a wee bit in a wee bit more detail, and maybe talk about how you're maybe ways you've worked towards that already?
Certainly. Pretty much, the UK and the world up until this point has been a very carbon intensive thing. You can see that the climate, the average temperatures are absolutely soaring and continue to soar beyond levels that have never been seen. And predominantly that's down to the amount of carbon and greenhouse gas emissions that we're generating through industry and through how we live and how we travel. So as an energy company, Scottish Power is very well placed to actually make significant positive change to that. So the first thing that we did, Scottish Power used to own one of the dirtiest power stations in Europe called Longana. And it was a very efficient power station, and it was a very profitable power station, but it was terrible for the environment. It was burning coal, and despite whatever steps we would take to reduce the emissions were still unacceptable. So Scottish Power took the bold step to actually close that power station down, despite it being profitable, and close all of our thermal. These are called thermal power stations, right? So you burn something and you create energy, so it's thermal. We closed all of our thermal power stations. We sold our generation business, and we became the first of the main utility companies in the UK to become 100% renewable. And that means that we make the electricity and we sell it directly to customers. We're not, trading paperwork or making ourselves look greener than we are. We're really actually doing it. So that was the first thing. The next thing then we looked at is what do our customers need, because everything we do has to have a customer involved in it at the start and at the end. And transport is a big opportunity to decarbonise. You know, traditional internal combustion engines, you only need to be able to see the fumes coming out the exhaust. Can't be a good thing. So the electrification of transport's been a huge opportunity for Scottish Power to help bring the country forward. So we are in the process of putting out a vast network of EV chargers, which will give customers the comfort that when they need to make a journey, they can charge their car and do so by using Scottish Power's electricity, which is generated 100% renewable. The next big opportunity and the next big area for decarbonisation is heat. Now, most of the people who are on the call today or listening later on will have a gas boiler in their house. And a gas boiler basically is just a fancy kettle. You burn gas, it heats water up, it puts the water into the radiators in your house, and it possibly fills a tank up so you can have a hot shower as well. Now, burning gas also creates a lot of emissions as well. And funnily enough, if you rewind maybe 30 years, everybody didn't have a gas boiler in their house. It just became accepted and it became normal because they are cheap and they are quite efficient, but they're terrible for the environment and we can't continue down that path. So Scottish Power is looking at new ways of how we decarbonise heat. And again, one of the ways that we can do that is electrification. Now, we would use technology such as heat pumps, potentially storage heaters and other systems like that, which in themselves are not particularly innovative. They exist already, but they're very, very expensive. So the challenge for me as an innovation manager and for our business is to say, how do we come up with an innovative business model? Do we rent a heat pump to a customer? Because for comparison, just to give you some idea, a gas boiler, if my gas boiler breaks and I get it repaired and fixed tomorrow, cost about £1,000. If I wanted to replace that with an electric heat pump, £10,000 potentially. It's quite a difference. So how do we take customers with us on that journey and make it, you know, a lot less painful and a lot more affordable? So that could be that we rent the heat pump to the customer and they just pay it back a little bit every month on top of their bills. It could be that we partner with a house builder and the house builders put these in and include them in the cost of the house when you buy it. These are all challenges that we're struggling with, and we're going to help customers to decarbonise their heat, because heat is the single biggest factor in carbon emissions in the world, and if we can tackle heat, we'll make a significant positive step towards net zero.
Fantastic. That was a great explanation. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back across to Hope for a question. So Hope, so what would you say are the best subjects you would recommend to do your role as a graduate engineer, and what advice would you give somebody who's looking to move into a role as you have?
Yeah, it's a good point. So as an engineer, you do really need maths, and they say physics, but a science like chemistry or physics, maybe more towards physics, but so they're the kind of fundamentals that are required if you're going into like a university level. There is other routes into, such as you mentioned before, apprenticeships. So from school, I'd definitely say engineering or maths, but that's for engineering. There is different routes, as we said, into the energy sector. You can come in through a science. So some of my friends and kind of fellow colleagues come in through kind of earth science routes and then specialised at the end in sustainability or masters. But I definitely think that you need to also still do subjects you enjoy, and give yourself a bit of that creative flair in your applications and to kind of show that you're standing out. So I continued to do music my whole kind of school time, right up to advanced higher. I loved it. It gives you a bit of a break and it's something you enjoy whilst you're in school. And definitely take on opportunities. Say yes to things that you probably wouldn't say yes to. I think I remember when I was especially in uni, there was a lot of pressure to try and get internships and do placements in companies to look good on your CV. But I went and did Camp America when I was in uni for 3 months, where you go and work in a summer camp. The next year I then went to Rwanda and did a project on kind of promoting STEM opportunities in schools, and I think that gave, I'm not saying don't do internships, definitely do if that's what you'd like to do, but take on opportunities, and it just gives you things to talk about, and it gives you that bit of a kind of edge, and you enjoy it at the same time. You're passionate about it, and that then shines through when you're going for jobs or you're going for apprenticeships. And yeah, just be enthusiastic and take on as many opportunities as you can.
Excellent. I think you made some very good points there. So it is true that the subjects you pick are important for what you want to do in the future, but also you need other subjects to make that up. So if you're doing something you enjoy, it definitely gives you quite a lot, and you'll probably still gain quite a lot of skills when you've been working in your role in Camp America and when you went to Rwanda. So you probably learned a lot while you're there. You've used, which brings us nicely on to the next question, actually. So in your current role, what skills do you see as being the most important, the core skills to your role?
I think especially coming in as a new member of staff, I'm learning a lot, and I'm doing a lot of kind of background reading myself. So I'm having to be quite organised, especially like attending meetings and doing the background reading, so I know going into the meeting what they're talking about. Organisation skills. Also good at communicating. You have to be. You're in meetings with, and especially on COVID, and like we're doing today, it's all online at the minute for myself. So you're in meetings with contractors, and you have to make sure that you're not able to be on site to double check everything's getting done right. So you need to make sure you're communicating things correctly, and you're being a face for the company also. So you want to ensure that you're coming across well. So communication skills are great, and you're doing a lot of teamwork as well. So being able to work in a team and knowing your role and doing your tasks.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I kind of said before, being enthusiastic as well. As a new learner, you want to show you're enthusiastic and get involved in as many projects as you can at this stage. It's a great opportunity, and it's you end up doing some really cool things.
Excellent. So I've got a wee question before we move back to Craig. But were you always a confident communicator? So when you were in school, were you a confident communicator, or is that a skill you developed?
It's definitely a skill I developed. I couldn't say that I like public speaking, or I grow bright red, as some people would call it, already, whenever I would get up and stand in front of people. So I was always very conscious of that. I like to think I was quite a good communicator working in teams and smaller environments. That was more comfortable for me. So again, it's kind of putting yourself out your comfort zone, doing things like this today. That builds you that confidence. So
yeah,
it took me a while. It definitely took me time. But when you get involved in different opportunities, you're kind of forced into maybe taking yourself out your comfort zones a wee bit, and then it pays off.
Excellent answer. So what we'll do is we'll jump across to Craig, and I'll ask you not the exact same question, but what would you say are the core skills, the important skills for you in your role day to day?
I think it's the same as Hope, communication, but also sort of building on that, knowing who you're communicating with, and sort of adapting your style to communicate appropriately. Sometimes I'm speaking to academics or very technical people who love loads of details and they like facts and figures and all that sort of stuff. And then other times I'm speaking to teams and trying to get them enthusiastic about a project. So you need to kind of be a wee bit softer and open with asking a wee chat about how people are, and adopting and tailoring your communication style depending on who you're speaking to and what message you're trying to get across and what result you're trying to get. So communication is absolutely key. In innovation and throughout my career, I think curiosity is one of the, I don't know whether you'd say that's a skill or whether that's an aptitude or whatever, but being curious about things and asking questions and getting involved in stuff throughout my career. That's when I started working in hospitality, I was waiting tables, and when I finished, I was running the restaurant. And I got there by asking questions, by volunteering to do things, by taking on extra duties and responsibilities. And the same when I joined in Scottish Power. I was in the back office to the call centre, an entry-level position, but by sticking my hand up and asking questions and volunteering for things, being a bit of a nuisance sometimes, in a positive way, has helped me to get opportunities to volunteer, to progress, to do continued education and training while I'm at work. Because I think it's important to remember that it's not just about getting the job. That's the start. That's really the start. And then once you're in work, a company like Scottish Power, we're very lucky that they've got a great learning development team. You can do loads of online courses yourself. You can do face-to-face courses. You can also do external courses as well and continue to improve and improve your chances of progression. Personally, I've started doing a degree this year through Scottish Power and Skills Development Scotland, which is a massive challenge. But I've always been conscious that I had a bit of a gap in formal qualifications on my CV. You know, my experience has got me up to this point, but personally, I think having some formal qualifications might be a good thing now as well. So I'm getting the opportunity to do that. So I think, yeah, curiosity, communication and resilience as well, particularly in the last year. You know, don't get worn down by things. In innovation, I'm constantly trying to disrupt the business and take them away from the things that they do every day and say, oh, look at this shiny new thing over here, maybe we should go and do that. And you have to drag people across, and sometimes they're too busy and sometimes they're under a lot of pressure and you get told no a lot of the time, and you just quite resilient and dust yourself down and come back to them another time with a different approach and present it a different way, and eventually you'll get the result that you're looking for. So yeah, communication, curiosity, resilience. None of those that you can learn at school.
They're definitely skills you learn by experience, and resilience is very, very important. Regardless of anything you do, we don't always succeed first time, but it's about coming back and trying again. But that's really good, and that brings us nicely on to our next question, which basically somebody's asking, I don't necessarily have hires. What routes would be available to me in Scottish Power? So, I mean, obviously, Hope has gone through a graduate apprenticeship, and we've talked a wee bit apprenticeships. Would you be able to say a bit more on the ways people can access opportunities?
Sure. Well, in a formal sense, we still offer craft apprenticeships, modern apprenticeships, I think that they're called externally, where you come in from potentially as early as after 4th year at high school with your qualifications, not your hires. They will be looking for you to have like a maths or something, you know, STEM related in there. And they have a craft apprenticeship where you actually come in, you do formal learning through Scottish Power and some external learning, but you actually get put out on the job and you are the apprentice within a team. So you might be working on the wind farms like Hope does, you might be working on the networks, so you could be up pylons or down in holes in the ground fixing cables and things like that. I think that's about a 4-year programme, and at the end of it you have a trade. You are a lines person, you are an engineer or an electrical engineer or whatever it is, and an opportunity to work full-time as a qualified person at Scottish Power. So that's one route, and there is an informal route, and which is the route that I took as well, in that you take an entry-level job, working in the call centre or a position like that, and you work your way up through the company, which is exactly what I did. We do have opportunities to continue learning while you're at work, so you can do your job and you can apply yourself into areas that you might find interesting. There's always projects that are looking for additional support and help, so you can get involved in things like that, and it might take you away to a different part of the business that you didn't even know existed when you joined in the first place. So it's great if you can go into a formal programme and you can follow that path. That's brilliant because it's very structured. There's a slightly less structured way to do it as well, and that's just get a job, do your job as well as you can, stand out for the crowd, and if you continue to do that, you'll get noticed.
Excellent, excellent. So some very good points there as well. And I kind of like that, what you were saying in your previous question about the internal learning and continued learning. A lot of people don't think about that, and it's definitely something that's really good to have. So what we'll do is we'll jump back across the Hope, and I've got a question which is, what is the best thing about your job, and what is the most difficult part of your job?
Good question. The most beneficial for me at this moment in time, when I started in September, I joined, like I said, UK Technical Services that were in charge of 2 brand new wind farms that we were building, one right up the north of Scotland and one terrible east or west over that way, down. And I saw those, I was involved in those projects, weekly meetings with contractors, seeing them progress from the components, so like the blades, the towers coming off of the boats, to being built on the site, which was really cool to see, just the development of how these wind farms are built and the challenges that are faced along the way. It's not as smooth a process as just putting them up. There's quite a lot that goes on in between that. So that was incredible, and I definitely think a real benefit also to the new team that I've joined. Like I said, I'm working with older turbines, so I started off in brand new shiny turbines, and now I'm looking at the older, more retired turbines. Yeah, that need a bit of TLC. So that's been a great benefit, and a great benefit overall of the grad scheme, as I said, is I get to join these different teams, and like Craig was saying, there's teams in Scottish Power that you don't even know exist. It's such a massive company, from people doing things really niche, doing jobs that are so specific, to kind of wider roles. And it's great to get that from all aspects, and also be involved with different graduates that are going through similar things but on different paths, and we can kind of compare. And also it's really flexible, so if I liked what they were doing, I could try and maybe kind of do a bit of work experience in their team and vice versa. The challenges faced at the minute is really just because of COVID. I've joined the company working from home, so I joined in September, and I went in and met my manager, got my laptop, and came back home, and ever since then everything's been virtual. So it's a bizarre starting my working career, but starting it from my bedroom. So that's just a challenge faced at the minute. It's kind of like Craig was saying, you've got to have a bit of resilience, and thankfully with COVID easing, site visits are being more, site visits are kind of ramping up, and I'm able to go and meet some members of teams that I've been on calls with for the last 6 months. So yeah, that's the challenges at the minute.
That's pretty good. So it's good that you're going to be able to get out on site more. I actually had a call with somebody, and they went, "I've been working with this person for 12 months, and I couldn't even tell you what height they are." I can't remember who said that, but it just really struck me. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump to Craig, because I was going to ask you a question. You've already answered this as part of your answer here, so we'll jump to Craig. So Craig, obviously COVID has been a big issue. So how has that affected the way your job works, and more how Scottish Power, does their, with the impacts on the jobs that you do?
Well, I think obviously it comes with the negatives, of course, right? You're isolated, you're not getting that human interaction with people, and people that previously annoyed the living daylights out of you in the office, using all your milk and stuff like that. Funnily enough, now you're missing them a wee bit. So, appreciate these people when they're there. But it presents opportunities as well. There's massive opportunities. As I said, our operational carbon footprint we've been able to significantly reduce because we're not travelling. We're also now challenging the traditional Monday to Friday, go to the office 9 to 5 business model, which not only causes a lot of pollution by everybody travelling and sitting in traffic in cars or on buses, but it's also quite stressful as well. You sometimes don't arrive at work in your best frame of mind after you've been sitting in traffic the whole time. So more flexible working, and we've proven that flexible working actually works. Not that it's always been an option at Scottish Power, but I think there's been a lingering suspicion among some people that if you're working from home, that you're not really working from home, that you're just having a wee duvet day and you don't really fancy coming to the office. I think we've challenged that and we've proved that it works, and we're probably never going to go back to the traditional Monday to Friday 9 to 5. We'll do probably a blended approach where working from home will be an option and going to the office and working there will be an option as well when it's appropriate. Helping you to manage that work-life balance, because I mean, speaking personally, I've got 2 young children. I'm working full-time. I'm also studying a degree at Strathclyde as well. It's a lot of plates to keep spinning. So if you can save a bit of time from travelling back and forth to the office to effectively some days go and sit there and not speak to anybody anyway, because you've got your head down and you're focused on what you're doing. But it will be nice then having the option to go in and get that human interaction. I mean, we've got a gym at Scottish Power, and I'm a member of a group of people that go out running a few times at lunchtime. Absolutely miss that motivation for the group thing. It's quite easy just to sit around and not do anything when you take an hour off working from home. So pros and cons, but we're certainly looking at the positives in that we can decarbonise so much more. We can work more flexibly, and that gives people better work-life balance. And at the end of the day, if people are happy, people are settled, they're not going to leave the company. So we manage to keep the talented people in the business as well. So there's the obvious negatives, but overall, you know, we've drawn a lot of positives from it as well.
Excellent. I think part of what you said there relates to another question that I have here, which was obviously with COVID causing people every day to stay at home. Did that help decarbonisation? What do you think about that?
Absolutely, it did. I mean, for our sort of operations, how we carry out our business, absolutely it did, because there was no travelling and all of that sort of thing. So sure. But then in the industrial sector as well, during lockdowns and things like that, unless businesses were deemed to be, you know, essential, that a lot of factories and a lot of business places were just simply not operating. So yeah, that did offer some decarbonisation. It's only temporary though, because eventually, you know, fingers crossed, these businesses will all get back to normal. But what we hope is that we can, our ambition is to work with companies like that to help identify, you know, where are you generating most of your emissions from? I mean, you can buy renewable energy from us and that's dead easy, but what else are you doing? What else can Scottish Power do? Can we maybe put some EV chargers in and you can switch your vans to electric? You know, could you use hydrogen to do your process? Hydrogen's potentially going to be part of the energy mix in the future as well. So yeah, there have been positive signs of decarbonisation, but I think it's only understandable because everybody was sitting in the house, right? nobody was going anywhere, nobody was doing anything. So when business returns to normal, it will go back up, but we hope that we can take some of the lessons learned and we can share them and help other businesses clean up their operations as well.
Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll jump back to Hope for a few questions. So we've talked a bit about going through apprenticeship route, but you came through a university route and you came through aeronautical engineering. So how did you find that transition?
So the transition from studying to working for me is, again, once in a lifetime because of COVID being a bit bizarre. I'd been studying in my bedroom, I'm now working in my bedroom. So for me, there's not been a clear cut from studying life to working life. But it's nice to know at 5:30 or 6 o'clock I can turn my laptop off and I'm done for the night. That makes a massive difference. And knowing that your weekends, you don't need to go, oh, I need to go to the library this weekend, or oh, I need to finish this essay for tomorrow. It's been great. It has been really nice. And also you're obviously getting a wage also for doing the things that you're doing, which is a bonus. Yeah, it's a different change, but like that, a lot of the skills that you were using in university, you're now applying to your working life. So reading reports and writing reports and doing teamwork projects. And it's funny going from in university when all projects were theoretical. So it was your lecturers were giving you how can you decarbonise this? One of our projects was to decarbonise New Lanark, and we had to come up with solutions and ways to do that. Whereas now it's actually what you decide gets put into real life practice. That's a bit bizarre. It's a bit pressure on sometimes, but no, it's great. It's been good.
Excellent, excellent. So I've got a question here, which is, if you were to give yourself some advice when you were in school, what piece of advice would you give yourself moving forward?
Nothing's permanent. Whatever you decide right now doesn't mean it's going to be permanent for the rest of your life. So in school, like when you're in 4th year and you're starting to pick subjects, it's when you leave school, what do you want to do? When you get asked that question left, right and centre, what do you want to do? What would you like to do? And at that time, I had no idea, absolutely no idea whatsoever. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to try and come up with, what do I want to do? And I liked engineering and maths. I wasn't as good at English, so I thought, right, we'll go down this route. I then decided I wanted to be a dentist for a while, and kind of last minute before applying to university changed that. So, and then even then I went and studied engineering of planes, and then I've totally moved sector into the renewable energy sector. So I think to just be easy on yourself, do things you enjoy, but also you do want to come out of school if you can with the best qualifications that you can get. And yeah, be easy on yourself. Nothing's permanent, and take on opportunities. Yeah.
So I think that's actually really good advice. I think a lot of people find that their career path came rather obscure routes and has maybe not been the first route that they have chosen. So mine was much like that as well. So not putting pressure on yourself. That's some really, really good advice. So what we'll do is we'll jump back to Craig. So obviously we have the COP26 climate conference coming up. So is Scottish Power involved in that, and how are you involved?
Yeah, COP26 is the biggest event that's ever come to the UK, and we're very, very lucky that it's coming to Scotland in particular. You're talking that world leaders from across the globe coming to one location to negotiate an agreement to reduce emissions and improve the environment for future generations. And that's why it's such a big event, because you can only effectively hold it really in person, and that's why it's been quite a challenge this year to see, are we actually going to be able to have all of these people here, because they need to be in the one room to hammer out a deal and sign that deal, and then all the countries that have signed up to it have to set targets to improve their impact on the environment. So it's a massive thing, and then you've got a whole circus happening around that of different companies and technical people and experts and power companies and transport companies and even oil and gas companies all coming together to try and see opportunities to work together to deliver the targets that the world leaders are signing up to. I heard somebody reflect and say that it was the equivalent in Glasgow of having the Olympics, the FA Cup final, and what else was it? The Olympics, the FA Cup final, and the Grand National all on the same day. That's the sort of volume of people that are coming, and Scottish Power are proud to be one of the headline sponsors of the event. So it's more than just flinging some money in and sticking some Scottish Power banners around the place. We are doing a huge amount of work both before and after the COP comes to town to improve Glasgow as a city, and hopefully Scotland and the UK as a country as well. We're doing things like we're going to be putting a number of electric vehicle chargers in and providing electric transport so that the people, the delegates at the conference can transport themselves around without any emissions. We are, we've got very high-level speakers involved at the event. My colleague, Dr. Sam Gardner's our head of sustainability and climate change. He's going to be one of the keynote speakers at the event. Our chief executive, Keith Anderson, is heavily involved in, leveraging this opportunity, not just in a commercial sense for Scottish Power, but for us to actually lead by example and say, we are actually spending money to improve the local environment. We'll be involved in planting trees, we'll be involved in electrification of transport, we'll be involved in the electrification of heat, a whole programme of projects and events that will be leading up to the COP, but then most importantly will continue for the years after the COP as well, because it's not just about having a big fancy event and then we all go back to business as usual. This is an opportunity for fundamental change, and we are fully involved in it and fully embracing it.
Excellent. I've got a question here, which is around the pursuit of renewables and green energy, but it's basically about, do you think that's going to create more opportunities in future for people? Like more opportunities for jobs? Specifically with Scottish Power, but just in general as well.
Most definitely it will. If we are to deliver the decarbonisation targets that the UK is currently signed up to, we need so much more electrification. So we need so many more offshore wind farms, onshore wind farms, solar farms, battery storage projects. So if we are actually to deliver these targets, we need to electrify, we need to do it really, really quickly. We need to ramp that up as much as we possibly can. So absolutely that creates jobs. We need people, to go and do the planning and the consenting for the wind farms, the actual construction of the wind farms, then the operation and the maintenance of the wind farms. We need more electricity network infrastructure. The network is basically like the same as the motorway, right? The electricity drives down the motorway for the wind farm to the customer's house. We need more network to facilitate all of that as well. And then if everybody's electrifying their heat and their transport at home, we need a more resilient, a more robust and a smarter network that allows all of those electrons to flow around the place without the wires all melting and everybody losing supply. So there's absolutely an abundance of opportunities on the horizon when we start getting into the true green recovery after COVID. And certainly those opportunities will lie with Scottish Power and lie across the industry as a whole. It's an exciting time to be involved in it, it really is.
Excellent, excellent. So we'll jump back across to Hope. Obviously you've been at Scottish Power for a wee while, haven't started recently, but what would you say is the sort of favourite project or favourite thing that you've worked on?
Favourite project I've worked on? Yeah, because I'm quite new. To be fair, I think it's actually at the minute one of the projects that I'm working on currently. So we have a wind farm that is a wind farm that's now coming up to 20 years old. And when we should really start kind of decommissioning, so planning to slow it down to then create new wind farms. Iberdrola, so our kind of parent company in Madrid, have said to us, no, we can get another 10 years out of that wind farm. And easier said than done. We're then the team that has to work out how that's going to be done. So at the minute, we're doing hiring a lot of contractors to come in and do go up our wind turbines and basically produce reports for us to say this is going to need changed, or this needs upgraded, or even just these blades need cleaned. Like it's crazy how dirty some of the wind turbines can get. So they basically give us a big list of, if you want to achieve this, this is what you're going to have to do. And then like that, we have to go around and try and get budget and speak to different teams of how they're going to come in, hire different companies to come in and do things for us. So it's cool to see the kind of framework of how we're actually able to keep these turbines going for way longer, which is also good for emissions, because you're not then getting components, shipping them from all over the world to come back. Working out how to recycle components, they're still up and they're still running. If it's working, don't change it at the minute.
Excellent. So I'm going to jump back to Craig for one final question before we wrap up. So I've actually lost the question, but the question basically is: you have had a very, very long career, so, in different areas. You've done a lot of different things. Is there anything you would have done differently?
Sometimes I think that I wish I had gone to university when I was young, and it would have been easier. Certainly, I have those thoughts when I'm sitting at 10 o'clock at night, writing essays and things like that, and trying to get my head back into doing formal learning after a very long time away from school. But you know what? I wouldn't, because if I changed how I had arrived at this point, I would be changing big factors. I might never have met the mother of my children. I might not be involved in the job that I'm involved in just now. So I wouldn't change anything, to be honest. And what I would say is the key thing for me, certainly all the way through it, has been taking something from every job that I've had and trying to do every job that I've had as positively as I possibly can. And try and enjoy it, try and have fun and try and enjoy it while you're doing it as well. I mean, hospitality is a really hard industry to work in. The wages aren't very good, but you work with a crew of people for long hours and you have a laugh together, and you learn a lot as well. You learn about people, you learn about pressure, you learn how to handle money, you learn responsibility. So it's a great thing, and all of those are transferable skills that then I've taken forward in my career journey. Same with photography. You're under huge pressure. You're photographing somebody's wedding, and if it doesn't go right, then you don't really get to do it again. So you have to learn to be organised and to be have spare equipment and be well planned in advance and do everything as quickly as you can. Again, taking something for every single bit of that and learning for everything as well. What I would say is I've learned as much from bosses that I didn't get on with as I have from bosses that I do get on with. You learn something for everybody, and just keep your eyes and your ears open and keep moving forward. There's no time to be looking back and saying I wish I had done things differently. You just need to keep charging on and doing everything the best you can.
Excellent. That's some really good advice there, because every single experience you have, there is something to learn from it. So I agree with you 100% there. That's excellent. So that's us come to the end of the session. I'd like to say a big thanks to both Craig and Hope for their contributions today and their insight into their roles at Scottish Power. I certainly found it very interesting. I hope you did too. We've added a link into the chat for the feedback survey. If you could take a second to complete it, it would help us deliver better sessions in the future. If you need information, advice or guidance on all things careers, you can speak to your school careers advisor. If you're interested in some of the graduate apprenticeship schemes or the craft apprenticeship schemes we talked about today, you can go to scottishpower.com/careers, and there's more information about all the things relating to Scottish Power on their website there. You can also find more information about careers at myworldofwork.co.uk. You'll find lots of information there that can help you make choices about your career, and if you need some further inspiration on what to do. There are tools there to help you understand your strengths and lots of job profiles for you to explore. As mentioned earlier, this video, along with other expert sessions, will be added to the My World of Work YouTube channel under the My World of Work Live playlist. You can also check out apprenticeship.scot for more things on apprenticeships. We've got lots of more sessions planned, so if you're interested, please feel free to register interest for them. Finally, thanks to Craig and Hope, and thank you for joining the session. Take care and have a lovely day.